Hey everyone, welcome to another Everflow Fireside Chat. I will be your host for today. I'm Michael, I'm the VP of Marketing at Everflow, and today we're joined by Tonkin of Fanatics, and we're going to be talking about how to leverage your brand to build a better affiliate program. So we always start off with some quick fire questions just to get warmed up. So first off, Wade, what is your role at Fanatics?
I'm the Director of Global Affiliate Marketing at Fanatics.
Sweet. And what led you to joining them in the first place?
It was crazy. I was actually, I'd been in the industry for a while, and I had some friends who were at Fanatics before me. Jason Rybacki, who ended up at ShareASale, had contacted me about the role, and I wasn't ready to move at the time. I had my own agency, was working with some of the folks that are now at GTO Management, or now at Lab 6 Media, and a company called GTO Management. And Rybacki hit me up, said, "Hey, I got this gig. You need to check it out. I think it's right up your alley," because I'm a big sports guy. And at the time, I wasn't really ready to do something different. So I kind of blew it off. And then he'd got another friend of ours in there taking the job, but was also doing some agency stuff. He decided he wanted to go back to agency work. And so Jason called me back and said, "Hey, man, you really need to look into this." And at the time, it was Football Fanatics. It was really kind of a regional brand. It was really more kind of college sports focused, fraction of the size of the company that we are today. I think it was $175 million company back then. And affiliate was probably, 5 or 6 million a year and a couple brands. And jumped on board in November, like literally the week of Black Friday.
What year?
In 2010.
2010.
And kind of been there ever since.
And how big is Fanatics now?
Oh man, we're well over $10 billion valuation. The affiliate program is 100 plus million and growing. And we were running affiliate programs, I think, for 40 something brands. I mean, yeah, and it's a global business now, which is really crazy. So we're not only running Fanatics, but we've got the league stores in the U.S. We run some international programs for some of the top names in sports, like PSG, Manchester United, Chelsea FC, Atletico Madrid. We're also getting ready to fire some stuff up for the Olympics moving forward, because Fanatics is doing retail for the Olympics. And it's exploded. It's crazy.
So I think it's safe to say that you know a little bit about affiliate marketing. Cool.
Hope so.
So next up, what initiative did you focus on the most this week?
Yeah, this week has been kind of crazy because I've got a bunch of European travel coming up, a bunch of European conferences, because one of the challenges my VP gave me this year was to really get the European business booming. I've got a really good number two in Joe Sousa here in the US that runs North America for me, and the business has been growing pretty consistently. And we're newer into the market in the UK and Europe. And so we've got a team of a couple people over in Manchester. We've got an agency that we're working with, Silverbean, out of Newcastle. And so I've been working on putting together our trade show strategy for the rest of the year. That's pretty much European focused. There's not really a whole lot of US stuff going on. So we're looking at doing a show in Prague here at the end of this month. We're also hitting PI Live in London, which is an amazing show. If anybody does business in the UK, it's a fantastic show, and they're coming to the US as well. And then also doing the affiliate summit, the meat market in Berlin coming up. And so we've been kind of finalizing our promotional packages for those and sponsorships, and we're doing some cool stuff. So I'm pretty excited. It's been a lot of fun kind of negotiating contracts and getting some plans lined up for that.
Cool. And for the conferences you're looking at in Europe, sort of like what has helped you sort of determine which ones that you want to test out first?
Yeah, this year's been kind of an interesting one because we've really been just kind of surveying those shows. We've been trying to get out and, hit some shows, attend them. I just got back from Affiliate World in Barcelona a couple of weeks ago. So you guys were there as well. Fantastic show, huge. I mean, I think bigger than Affiliate Summit. So
supposed to be 3 times as big.
Yeah, and it was immense, and it was a very cool town too. I mean, Barcelona is fantastic. So, but really a lot of it is just getting out there and seeing the shows and kind of trying to wrap my brain around how to best leverage this. And we didn't go in and do like a big sponsorship or anything. We were looking at some opportunities for Affiliate World, but what they were looking for was a little rich for my blood. And then I went by and I saw the sponsorship that I was looking at, and I saw that one of the casino sites had picked it up, and I was like, damn it, that looks pretty cool. And so I think I actually took a little bit of inspiration for that, for some of what we're doing at some of the other shows. But yeah, it's just been getting out and seeing, checking them out in person, and because I think really that's the best way to go about it is to go and see what there is to see. And some of them we'll choose to go back to, some of them we won't, some of them we'll ramp up our investment in, and other ones we'll just because we'll probably get into this a lot, later on, but I mean, there's kind of different ways you can approach shows depending on, kind of how it matches up with what you're doing and what your budgets are, and, kind of how into the crowd you are. So.
And we talked a little bit about this in the warm up, but how did you get your start in the industry?
It's actually by accident. And the funny thing is, I still don't know if I've met anybody in 23 years that set out to be an affiliate marketer. I came up as kind of a guerrilla marketer. So I was booking bands in the Seattle area back in the late 80s, early 90s. And one of the bands I worked with, their bass player and lead singer was a webmaster for a software company. And I was managing a pizza place in Bellingham, Washington, a Domino's at the time. And he called me up and said, "Hey man, I think I got an opportunity that you should check out. We got this, this guerrilla marketer position, kind of soliciting backlinks back, before affiliate was really a big thing." And so I went down and interviewed for that. I interviewed for that position, and I interviewed for a tech support position the same day. The tech support thing just wasn't my thing. I mean, guy kept asking me acronyms, and I was like, dude, yeah. I'm like, I'm out. This just isn't. That's not going to be me. I'm not your guy. I could be trainable, but I'm like I'd be starting way upside down on this. But nailed it on the kind of guerrilla marketing interview, and so I got hired for that. And then within a few months, I was running channel sales, so running the reseller channel, and had a buddy that I went to high school with that his dad launched a startup in my hometown, Mount Vernon, Washington, and it's kind of getting the band back together. So he called all his buddies that were working in the software industry in Seattle, and kind of got us all back up in our hometown to kick off this startup. And so my first assignment was to figure out what the heck affiliate marketing is, pick a vendor, and launch it. And so at the time, he only had like 3 real platforms that were there: BeFree, CJ, and Linkshare. We launched on Linkshare. Did that for about 18 months until the money dried up. It happened a lot then, because we were pretty good at burning money. My channel was profitable, but you're in trouble when you're starting to get your partners calling up saying, "Hey, I haven't really been getting paid," and then your vendor calls you up and says, "Hey, we haven't really gotten paid. When's that going to happen?" And so from there, I kind of started consulting and bounced around some other networks and things like that. And it's 23 years of history at this point.
It's always like the best or worst part of performance marketing, especially when you're working for startups, is that like you are always the ones bringing in the money. And then if they burn too much, all that money is not going to the people that should be paid. And then it's like the worst job at that point. But it's awesome to be the one who actually brings in the bacon.
Oh, it's totally the worst, because you got all these partners that have been kind of busting ass for you, and getting stuff done. And and for me, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the content guys, because they're really putting a lot of work into it, versus the kind of the more corporate types of affiliates. And when those guys get stiffed, it's really rough. And it was kind of crazy. I think years after that, I actually ended up at another software company, working for the guy that got me started in software. And he had run into somebody in his building that was a VC, and he's like, "Yeah, I just hired somebody from that was at this company," and they're like, "Well, God, I hope he wasn't in finance." And they're like, "Nah, he was in marketing." They're like, "Okay, good," because those guys, nah, that was a mess. So good times.
Yeah, the startup life. All right, let's hop into some more long form questions. So first off, what do you think holds back recruitment for most affiliate programs?
I think there's a couple things. I think technology and lack of understanding of the technology that's out there can definitely challenge people. There are some really, really good tools out now, and there's some cool ones. Like BuzzStream. I use Media Rails. It's kind of one of the tools I get with Impact. There's some other good ones out there as well. I think GroupHi is pretty cool stuff. But understanding that there are tools out there that can help you kind of shorten up the curve, because I think there's a lot of people that are still doing it, using just Google and spreadsheets and stuff like that, which can work. It just doesn't scale all that well. And so having tools and knowing that there are tools out there that you can use that can be doing all of the research while you're doing other stuff, and hopefully doing a little bit of curation for you, and making it possible for you to kind of vet those leads and figure out who you want to really reach out to. Understanding that is huge. I think staffing is a big problem as well, because you really need to have some hunter killer types on your staff. And you've got to have people that live and breathe to go out and run a business. You've got to have that kind of sales mentality, and that's where that's my background. My whole family is kind of sales and marketing family, so I grew up listening to a lot of Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, traveling with my dad, and so I mean that was just kind of ingrained to me at an early age. And so I live to go out and find deals and do deals, and then hand them off to my team to make them work. And so, if you don't have that personality, it can be kind of tough to get yourself into, because you really, that sales mentality, I mean, you have to be somebody who kind of gets off on, people buying into you and what you're selling, and you're able to brush off being turned down, because you do get turned down. I mean, there's some people that just aren't into it. And so that aren't into, this way of marketing and making money. Some people like to have more of a guaranteed thing. And so you have to be willing to brush that off and realize that, hey, the fact this guy told me no saved me some time, freed me up to go talk to somebody else who might say yes. So staffing also definitely a biggie. And then I think having some good resources to help onboard people. I think in a lot of cases, people will go out there and do a lot of recruiting, but they won't have kind of a support system for partners to onboard them and to get them up and running and functioning at a high level quickly. Because the most powerful thing you can have when you onboard a new affiliate is to make them that first sale quickly, and to get that money flowing. The first time they get a paycheck, they're hooked. And so I think in a lot of cases, people will go out and they'll do the outreach, but they especially if you're working with a lot of content affiliates or social media affiliates, there might not be a lot of resources. First of all, there might not be a lot of understanding of your platform. In terms of the technical aspects of, hey, how do I log in? How do I create links? How do I check my reports? How do I build links that are like deep links to different specific products? Because with us, it's really very product motivated. And beyond that, it's best practices. What works? What are the best ways to go about making money? How do I handle disclosure? And so I think it's very important that you have put together some kind of resource set to empower those people to do that, and to have something where you're not having to break your effort and answer questions all the time. And so kind of what we got into is if more than a couple of people asked us about a question, we would do a video about it, or we would do a blog post about it, or both. And so then we've got some resources where we've got an affiliate blog, we've got a YouTube page where people can go, we can send people to get answers to their questions. And then when we put together our follow-ups to welcome somebody to the program, they actually link people out to this and say, hey, great way to get started is to go ahead and check these resources. And it's like kind of, how do I log in? How do I build a link? How do I make sure my bank information is set up right so I get paid? That's a biggie. Because in the end, I mean, the worst thing ever is when somebody's got a bunch of money sitting there, and then payday comes around and their money doesn't get released, and they're like, wait a minute, I got money coming. And well, yeah, you also don't have your tax paperwork in, and you didn't set up your bank. And so have a plan in place, have resources before you start doing the outreach, so that when somebody gets on board, they can hit the ground running, and you can point them at those resources, and then you can be going out finding more people.
Awesome. Let's explore a little bit about that. So first off, what do you look for when hiring for your affiliate team? Like, how do you think about this, like finding this right kind of personality, and like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely depends on kind of what you're looking for, because if you're looking for sales, you need to have somebody that's that hunter killer. We definitely want to have some analytical ability. I mean, you want people that can work with data, that can take a look at the data within the program, or take a look at site logs and see who's driving in traffic and see what's converting. You want them to be able to look into the program data and see kind of what the trends are, and are there trends that I could be following here? So that's key, in addition to having that sales personality. Obviously, if they're a salesperson, they've got to be personable. They've got to like to communicate. They've got to be good with written stuff to be able to reach out to people and be engaging. On kind of the more support side, I mean, obviously there's some personality stuff there, but you've also got to be, you've got to be able to dive into the information that's in front of you, be able to go through your network and see, what's working, what's not working, see who's driving traffic, be able to figure out, what are the opportunities, based on the data that's in front of us, I think is huge. And then, you really, I think at all positions, people have to be kind of self-motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a super heavy-handed boss. That's not the way that I run things. I would rather bring in people who have the right skill set, who have the right mentality, who have the right motivation, and kind of empower them to do what they do, and get them the tools that they need to be successful. But I'm not going to be the one that's going to be constantly prodding you, saying, "Hey, what's up with this? What's up with this? You need to do this." I want to kind of get somebody, put them in position to be successful, and then turn them loose to do their thing.
Have you found anything there that was really helpful in terms of testing or just getting a feeling that like, okay, yes, they will be really self-motivated? Because sometimes people talk a good game, but it's not their personality.
And I think that some of what we try to do is, when we're in that interview process, we try to give people some projects, and, and hopefully ones that get them out of their comfort zone a little bit, because, we want we want to ask some questions that people don't know the answers to, because we want to see how they react. And so if we ask you something and it's not in your wheelhouse, are you the kind of person that's going to go and jump on and do some research? Are you going to hit Google and do a little bit of research and figure out the answer to that question? And my first assistant that I hired here, she impressed me because she wasn't super polished, but she was scrappy, and she was willing to dive in and do the homework. And I had people that I was interviewing that I asked if what they know about affiliate marketing, and they told me straight up nothing. I'm like, do you think you might have wanted to jump on and do a little bit of research first? But she anticipated that somebody might ask that question, so she actually did her homework. She's like, I honestly, before I scheduled the interview, I had no freaking idea. But, I jumped on, did a little bit of homework. This is what I got out of it. And I was like, cool. You at least went to a little bit of effort there to try to get a little bit of background knowledge on things. And she had done a little bit of research on, the company, about on our program, and on me, and, just came in with some good background knowledge. And, as we became a higher and higher profile program, I kind of started to have some expectations around that, because it's like, guys, I mean, you're applying to work for, a program that's won awards, and a program that gets nominated for awards a lot. I mean, we think we're doing things pretty well, and it's a very high profile company. And so you might have wanted to, do a little bit of research and figure out, what are these guys good at? What are they famous for? Or, is this a well-known program? Before you come in, because there's going to be some expectations around that. We're going to want somebody that's going to be a self-starter, that can show us that they've been successful at doing some things in the past, that show us that you have some research skills, because a lot of it, especially on the recruiting side, I mean, it's all about research. I mean, it's one of the big things, is being able to, figure out, where the traffic is that we need, and hunt down contact information, which isn't always necessarily easy to find. And so it's like, how resourceful are you? Can you go out and, work LinkedIn? Can you, go out and figure out what app, what like browser installs you might want to use, like Hunter or something like that, to be able to find contact information? I mean, how into the weeds are you willing to get to go and find a way to work with this partner? And, are you going to dive into, who is, records, and see if you can find, the history of somebody who, had this domain, six or seven transfers back, or more, if somebody's, keeping things private. So I think that's a lot of it for me, is because I don't have a college degree. I mean, I think I'm like a speech class short of a transfer degree, which is really ridiculous given what I do now. But, for me, scrappiness and resourcefulness goes a long way. I mean, and I definitely value education, but, for me, it's like, I want to know that somebody is willing to kind of go that extra mile and do a little bit of digging and dirty work to figure out how we can get in touch with somebody, or how we can make things happen. And, definitely don't like to be told that can't be done, because I want people that are going to think their way around challenges and be like, yeah, this is tough, but, give me a second, we'll figure it out. At least ask the right questions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, scrappiness and resourcefulness is way more important than anything else, because most things can be solved when you're in the thick of it, and you have, like, I think that it's hard to learn stuff when it doesn't apply to you and you have no reason to understand it. But once you're in the middle of it, like that's when it's like the best learning opportunity. And if it's a personality that pushes themselves in that situation, they learn real fast.
Yep. And there's always opportunities in this business to learn new things. Because I mean, one of the things that I love about affiliate marketing, performance marketing in general, is that this is where innovation happens. We are on the bleeding edge in terms of traffic driving and marketing. Smart people are playing in this business. It's not always the smart ones that are doing things for the right reasons necessarily. So there's always a lot of innovation on the fringes. So if you look at, where a lot of the innovation comes from, it comes out of adult, it comes out of gambling, their lead generation. I mean, there's a lot of crazy smart people that are trying to find ways to advance the cause and make money. And so there's, if you need to be curious, you need to be, willing to dive in and figure out, some new technique, to see whether it's something that you can leverage or to see whether it's something that's a threat to your program, because those are out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And for when you've hired people in the past that were new to industry, how did you think about helping them start establishing relationships for the first time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in terms of kind of ramping them up, I mean, there's some excellent, some excellent books out there. Gina Prosakov's written some good stuff. Sean Collins has written some good stuff. So there's some good books that kind of help people wrap their brains around the industry. But one of the things I've always liked to do is take people out to conferences and get them, networking, introduce them to the people that we know, but then at the same time, encourage them to get out there and start building their own networks. I don't want them necessarily to be sticking around with us all the time. I want them to go and see who they might be able to connect with, because they might have a different personality type than me. They might attract a different people than I do, and that audience, they could be meeting people that are, that could be important for us to know down the road. And so I think everybody brings a little something different there in terms of the crowd that they attract and the crowd that they want to run in. Mm-hmm. And so getting them out there, getting them out in the water, swimming with the fish, and seeing what kind of contacts they're able to build, I think is big. We have a Facebook group that we use to support our affiliates, and I get them actively involved in helping to administer that and to be answering questions and keeping people updated on things that are that are going on. And one of the things I also like to do is challenge them to start building their own affiliate project. Because I think for me, to be a good affiliate manager, you need to have at least some experience with the affiliate side of it. And so I've always been a big fan of both internally, where I brought in Joe Sousa, who runs North America for me. He was an affiliate for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. Still is, just not, working within our vertical. And so he understands that affiliate perspective and has done a lot of the stuff in terms of, doing some paid search, doing some social stuff, doing content, doing SEO. And so he can kind of speak that language and look at things from that perspective. There's a lot of, in the last few years, there've been a lot of agencies, a lot of retailers have been hiring bloggers and bringing in people from the affiliate side to help support those people on their teams. Which I think having that understanding and that knowledge, I think is super, super important. So and then also just to be able to support those people with the tools that your program offers, it really helps to have used those and to get at least functional with them. You don't necessarily have to be fluent, but you need to have a functional understanding of, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? How can I coach somebody through this? And so sometimes it's challenging people to teach something. Mm-hmm. So hey, you might not be familiar with this, but I want you to figure out how to demo this to somebody or to teach somebody how to use this tool, and then go do it, and then maybe you put together a video on how to do this. So I think that stuff can all be really powerful. And then a lot of, I definitely try to include people, depending on what they're going to be, what side of the team they're going to be on, to be able to include them in sales calls or in activation optimization calls, get them on the calls with somebody that's experienced so that they can hear the conversation, they can hear what the partners are asking, they can hear what our responses to those are, kind of how we work around things. And that does a couple of things. Number one, I mean, you're kind of transferring the knowledge to them, and then it can also, it gives you another set of eyes and ears to where, if your approach, and sometimes there's issues with how we're approaching things, and somebody that's coming in without the inside baseball kind of knowledge can be like, hey, I heard you say this. that didn't really make sense, or maybe that didn't connect. Can you give me more on that? Or, hey, maybe we should, talk this through, and maybe we can refine, the approach that we have on this.
Cool. So we had a question from the audience. Do you mind repeating like which authors you shared, like any books you recommend, or like you can send them after the call and we can put those in the.
Yeah, I can totally send them over after the call. Gino Prosikov, he does the AM Days sessions at Affiliate Summit, the premium sessions. Gino's written a couple of really good books that I think are good, that are ones that I kind of give to people
Gino?
when they come on my team. Yeah, Gino Prosikov.
Prosikov, yeah.
Yeah, you can get those on Amazon.
And Sean Collins, you can just look up affiliates, and you'll find his name.
And there's a few good ones out there.
Sweet. And I think one of the things you mentioned there was really interesting, which is just the idea that you've basically built a sort of support community for your affiliates. Like that's a very interesting idea. And then that means that like your new hires sort of start working kind of like what we think of as customer success on the B2B SaaS side. Like they're customer success people for these affiliates, where they're learning the ropes by helping people resolve their issues. Like that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, and it turns out to be a really kind of a fun way of supporting people, because you'll have a lot of partners supporting other partners. Mm-hmm. And so somebody will ask a question, other people will chime in. Before I hired Joe, it was funny because I had the affiliate group going before I hired him, and then he was the affiliate who was answering everybody else's questions. And so kind of worked out pretty well once we actually brought him in-house. But, to have that kind of peer-to-peer kind of a thing going on as well, I think could be really powerful, because, we can't be heads down on everything that the affiliates are experiencing and are doing to promote things. And so sometimes they'll know a platform better than we do, and that's fine. They're supposed to, and we try to keep up. And it's challenging because, like I said, there's new platforms coming up all the time in terms of social media platforms. There's new ways people drive traffic. There's in the last couple of years, I mean, obviously you've seen the rise of Instagram, and you've seen the rise of TikTok, and you've seen streaming, where people have been promoting on Twitch and other products like that. So it's you've always got to be kind of looking out and watching for new trends and figuring out how to get out in front of those, and how to support and how to give people best practices as those platforms emerge.
So we definitely have a lot of customers that are like seeing great success with TikTok. Like that's a legitly good performance channel. Did Instagram ever, like, was there a point in Instagram where that actually became like a really good affiliate channel for some, or is that sort of like one that was always being tested but never really had the performance side of it?
We see some success on it. I think once Instagram started making it easier to link effectively, I think everything got a lot easier. I'm keep hoping that TikTok will do something similar. We do have some success with TikTok as well. We actually have some pretty good YouTubers right now. I think YouTube's actually pretty solid, because obviously with YouTube you've got kind of long form show notes. So if nothing else, you can refer. If you're not sharing like a vanity URL or something like that in the video, you can point people towards the show notes. But yeah, I think it's TikTok is definitely one that we're seeing a lot of kind of explosive growth in terms of the number of partners that are coming in, and we are starting to see some that are kind of figuring things out and figuring out how to get people to click through and come back to us, because we're kind of challenging for some of those platforms that you would think would be more more effectively promoted using promo codes, because the way that our site handles promo is really tricky, because we're very blunt with how we present the site offers. And so, I mean, but when you hit the site, you're getting a pop-up that's, this is the deal. You've got a bar across the top of the page saying, this is the deal.
Yeah.
When you go to a product level, there's a note on there saying, hey, this price with this code. And so if we were to be out there issuing people with vanity codes as their sole means of promotion, they would be getting killed, because there would be no reasonable expectation that somebody would actually enter that, because they're getting bombarded with all these messages from the site. We're trying to come up with ways to work through that, because I think that there's definitely ways you can set your site up to be more supportive of those types of kind of content partners, like podcasters, radio stations, TikTokers, things like that. But otherwise, it means that we really have to kind of coordinate with our promo team if we're going to do some tests and get people some promo codes that they can put out there. and actually have those come through. So in the last 6 or 7 months, we had some pretty good opportunities because we weren't super promotional on the site. And so we were able to get out and do some, kind of vanity code things. And one of the most fun that we did, we actually teamed up with NASCAR. And I love that NASCAR did this, by the way, because it's so not NASCAR 5 years ago. And during Pride Month, NASCAR teamed up with an influencer that was super, super flamboyant. I think he actually worked with them on a design for a shirt, and did a bunch of videos. We gave him a promo code that was matched up through our system to track to him. And for a couple of days, he was actually had the highest selling product on the Fanatics network of sites, not just on NASCAR, but like across the board. And it was cool because it was totally outside of the box. I mean, it was something that from people from the brand wouldn't have thought 4 or 5 years ago that NASCAR would be doing anything like this. You would have thought that it was people's perception of NASCAR is that it's like an old school redneck brand, but they've about 4 or 5 years ago they made a pretty pronounced shift in the way that they're approaching things, to where they said, this isn't our audience. This isn't all that we're about. We want to be about growth, and we want to be about, building the business moving down the road. So we have to be more inclusive, more open-minded. And that actually matches up really nicely with our D&I focus at Fanatics as well. And so once we started to see this campaign take off, we were just jacked. We thought it was the coolest thing in the freaking world. And we hope we do more of it. But that one was very much a promo code driven, because when we broke out the results of, was it the links or was it the promo code that converted? It was like, I think 3/4 of the traffic that came through was promo code tracked. But that was, we coordinated very specifically with the NASCAR promo team to say, hey guys, we need a window where we're not doing percentage off on the site. We want to give this guy a percentage off promo code that he can share out. And during that time, just crushed it.
And how do you handle sort of like coupon, not poaching in this case, but just the coupon showing up on, say, like user generated websites or the coupon extensions?
Yeah, we're pretty picky in terms of the coupon sites that we partner with. And so, we're only for the most part partnering with the top maybe 3 to 5 coupon sites in any geography. And usually we'll have some kind of a deal worked out with them where they've got UGC shut off in exchange for, being able to have, I won't say a premium offer because it's not a premium offer, but a better offer than they would otherwise have. We don't pay coupon sites all that much. We're kind of bottom of the barrel with them because, we're kind of looking at things from an incrementality perspective. And, if they're actively promoting us, if they're sending emails, if they're doing social pushes, stuff like that, we'll pay them like a content affiliate if they can prove that the traffic is coming from that initiative. But if it's just a trademark optimization situation, we're usually paying coupon sites like 1%. We're very, very low end on the payout for those. But for some of the bigger ones, if they're able to work with us and say, hey, we'll turn off UGC, then we're willing to, to work with them, get the commission up a little bit, from there. Definitely that's a case where, having a big brand and having, the reach that we do, your mileage might vary according to the strength of your brand, but we've been able to do that. We're kind of constantly evaluating that, deciding if that's something that we want to keep working with or how we want to approach it. But in general, our challenge to them is always, if you can do something that's incremental and you can prove it by using a specific link to track it, we're cool with it. We'll pay you more. But if your whole game is going to be based on picking somebody off in the last 15 seconds of the transaction based on the fact that you rank number 1 for Fanatics plus coupon, sorry, it's just not worth that much to us, because we are so over the top with how we promote that code on the site. We've actually seen the amount, the frequency of people leaving the site to get a code has actually declined pretty dramatically. Then in the last few years, obviously you've seen Honey and some similar plugins come up. In the past, we used to draw a pretty hard line on, browser helper objects and plugins. We're a little bit more case by case on that now, depending on kind of what their behavior is and kind of how blatant they are. But in the end, we realized that, with some of these bigger ones, this is something that the audience is choosing to work with. They're deciding that they want to install this. And so, we've found ways that we can work with those guys to, make sure that they're also keeping the UGC off. And in a lot of cases, that means that we've got to get them, some sort of a vanity code, which is fine. But as long as they're willing to work with us to keep things clean, we can find ways to work together. And I think we've kind of found a happy medium. It's definitely something where, it's been interesting the last few years because we used to have a program that was like 80% coupon cashback driven. Now it's 50. And it hasn't been done by knocking those guys down. It's been done by raising up the other areas, which I think is really exciting.
That's legitimately impressive. Yeah, I bring this up a lot in fireside chats because I just think this is like, to understand affiliate marketing, you have to understand the relationship of coupons and what it means with last touch attribution and everything else there. And as I always bring up, like from our side, like the way that we always recommend that customers and brands handle this is looking at click to conversion time. So coupon websites, there's lots of different ways that they promote that sort of like last click, like SEO, they just looked up your brand plus coupon. Like in that situation, it's such a short window between the time that they clicked on the ad to the time that they purchased that you should be saying like anything under a minute, we're not paying out on that because you're not driving a shopper. And obviously like this depends on your relationships and what you have there, but that's a good rule for any, it's like a broad rule, and then you adjust it for individual partners. And then the other side, like if you're looking at your coupon websites and they have a bunch of traffic that is spending a long time click to conversion, like, either they drove new shoppers they're exploring and like deciding what to buy, or on the other side, like maybe that person was about to purchase, they went to the coupon website, the coupon was designed in a way where they had to increase their shopping cart and they went back and they shop more. Either way, like clearly in that situation where there's a long click to conversion time, the coupon website's adding a lot of value in driving shopper intent, which is really what you want from it in the first place.
Yeah, and we're very much about working with content partners and social media partners because we're really looking for the shopper with intent. Where in a lot of cases, what we found when we take a look at our backend metrics is that if you look at like first click, last click, same session on coupon sites versus cashback sites versus content sites, they look really different.
Mm-hmm.
Coupon sites, I think some of the we found with some of the even some of the big ones, you're looking at 12, 13%. So they're not usually the only one that was involved in the transaction. They're very, very infrequently. Cashback, you see that a lot more research takes place on the cashback sites because if somebody's like really into Rakuten, for instance, they're all about their cashback. They're going to start every shopping interaction by going to Rakuten and saying, I need to buy this. Where can I find it that's going to get me cashback from Rakuten? Mm-hmm. And so they'll start there and then they'll come to us and we'll see that their first click, last click, same session looks really different. It might be 40%, it might be 50%. We look at content affiliates.
When you say 40 to 50%, what do you mean?
They're like the only one that was involved in that transaction.
Oh, okay.
So like the only affiliate, yeah. So like they're the only affiliate, or even the only affiliate might be the only channel. Because if you look at that across your other paid or organic channels, it gets really interesting. But so with the cashbacks, you'll actually see more people that are doing their research there. They're kicking off their product discovery search there, which I think has a little bit more value. And in a lot of cases, if you take a look at some of the other, data around, what happens with the cashback sites, you might see you got like higher frequency of reordering. You might have a higher, average order value when you get there, when they actually check out. So there might be some other supporting stuff that shows them as being a little bit more valuable. But then we take a look at our content partners, and in a lot of cases, so let's say we're talking about like a blogger around a specific team or a social media promoter. Where that can be almost one-to-one, it can be almost 100%, because they had somebody that was reading their stuff or experiencing their content. They either put a product in front of them that they really wanted to buy in the moment, or they said, hey, I'm partnered up with Fanatics. If you want to support me, one of the ways you can do that is by shopping for your sports merchandise or your collectibles through my link. It'll help me out. Help me a ton. Help me keep generating content, doing what I do. And when people do that effectively, you'll see that traffic will come straight over, figure out what they want, and check out without bumping into anybody else. No other channels, no other affiliates. And so it's clean. And that, to me, is the stuff that has high value. So if you kind of look at the way that we compensate affiliates, a lot of it is kind of based on how does that all shake out? And it comes pretty close to matching up with what those percentages look like in terms of what we offer those different types of partners. But like I said, we're open-minded, and if somebody can come to us, with a coupon or cashback site and say, hey, we got this initiative in mind. We want to do a huge email push, or we want to, do a big media splash or something like that, and we need a little bit more money to do it. Yeah, we're open-minded as long as it makes sense. But we just want to see that there is some action, proactive thing happening on their side that is actually driving that traffic to us, and not just picking them up at the last second, the last 15 seconds to 30 seconds of that shopping process. Because to us, there's minimal value to that.
Mm-hmm. And on that, like, is there anything you're doing on your side to protect the content websites from like having their like tracking sort of like taken over by another affiliate that's like further down the funnel?
Yeah, we definitely have rules set up that that protect especially kind of our key content partners from being bounced by other affiliates that might be coupon or cashback sites. Usually with our platform there's different kind of roles in the transaction, and we've got things set up accordingly where the coupons tend to be kind of at the end of the trough, and they get paid if other people have not been involved, and the cashback guys win, or the content guys definitely win more often than not, usually unless another content partner trumps them.
And when you say you're doing this through your platform, like, is that something in-house? Are you using a network for that? How are you actually doing it?
Yeah, we're on Impact Radius.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I have not heard of anyone using Impact that sophisticated.
The tools are definitely there, and it's all just a matter of figuring out how you want to run it. And the cool thing that I really like about it is the flexibility is there. So I mean, we can set up infinite numbers of offers that are structured in different ways, using those roles. And in a lot of cases, it's really more about kind of deciding what's important in editing, because you could get yourself so in the weeds with the way that you structure an offer that nobody could ever understand it, and you would get to the point where you would go to a lot of work and you would have a lot of moving parts, and the actual value gain would be pretty minimal. Mm-hmm. And so at some point you just have to be like, I think this gets us to where we want to be, and then test it and make sure that it's kind of achieving what you want to achieve in terms of the content partners being willing to to lean in, realizing that they're not going to go to a bunch of effort to get bounced by retail me not at the end.
And for that, like, it sounds like you're also using like a multi-touch attribution to like detect sometimes how many affiliates were involved. Is that reliable, or does that feel like it's changing with like because from our understanding, like, that requires third-party cookies, which is like why it's cool, but we're not sure it will continue to work. Do you have any thoughts? Like, does it seem to be fun?
And we've got a server-to-server integration, so we're not playing with third-party cookies right now. But we've also looking a lot of things on the back end with our internal systems. But I mean, we're trying to be as responsive to that as we can. In the end, I don't think any system is perfect in terms of making sure that everybody who ever participated, gets a bit of it. And I think at some point, if you were to do that, you would kind of diminish, the attractiveness of things. But because if you fractionalize, if you go out and fractionalize things to the nth degree, nobody's making any money really. And so, but we try to come up with a way that we can be as fair as we can and have something be, motivational to the content partner. And, we go through and we look at this. I mean, we take a look, at, there's some good reporting and impact around, kind of the different roles that people play, incrementality reporting, where you can actually kind of take a look at, what role different affiliates are playing, and you can actually match them up. You can kind of mix and kind of slice and dice it with hey, let's take a look at this partner with this partner or this partner and see how who wins and what roles people are playing. So there's definitely some cool data there that can be leveraged. And I think it's cool that the platforms are getting that way. And I would when we were taking a look at new platforms 3-4 years ago, I was actually pretty bummed with how advanced the big legacy platforms weren't. Mm-hmm. Because we've been working with ShareSale previously, and ShareSale actually had some pretty cool commission rule stuff going on that was built by a really small team, and had been maintained for a couple of years. And I was looking at bigger platforms, and they're like, "Hey, you gotta wait a couple of weeks. We're finishing up something on the attribution," and then they ran me through it. I'm like, "They've been doing this at ShareSale for 4 years, dude. I mean, come on." This is stuff that a company if you got 100 developers on staff, building out your product, you should be cutting edge. You shouldn't be chasing the dudes that had 3 guys building the platform. And so,
That's not how most startups work, though.
Yeah.
And
But we're
versus
not,
big companies.
Yeah. So it was pretty interesting. And then, when we started to really kind of dive into what was out there, the solution identified itself pretty quickly. And it was funny because, I think Impact had been chasing us for 2 or 3 years previous, and we've been blowing them off because we're very brand loyal. When we find a partner that we like, we're very loyal. And, to be honest, you from being from the platform side, you understand what a pain in the ass it is to migrate a program and to migrate all the partners.
Real work, yeah.
Super disruptive. It's a lot of work. And so you don't want to do that stuff all the time. And so we were very careful about making sure that we had the solution packed. And we honestly took a good 6 to 8 months to migrate everybody over. And, obviously your big corporate guys, your cashbacks and coupons and loyalties and all that, those guys will switch over the next, that afternoon. It's really not that big of a deal for them because they're set up with every platform and they're, piped in with APIs and everything. So it's super easy for them to go ahead and replicate whatever it is, they had going on. They're platform agnostic. They really don't care. But when you get into your content partnerships and your social media partnerships, the tool set that's available for those partners is a huge consideration, and the ramp up time and how easy the tools are, to use that handle what they're into. And so we wanted to make sure that those tools were there. And no platform is perfect. Everybody's got room to improve. But finding a big platform that was actually willing to be responsive was pretty cool because we have worked with all the big networks in the past. I think when I took over the program for Fanatics, I think we were on every network but Linkshare.
Good old days.
Yeah, and it was crazy. And I set about pretty much immediately knocking that down to something manageable because we had an internal share a sale, GAN, GAN, CJ. We were damn near everywhere. And I was like, what are we gaining by this other than the fact that we have to do everything 5 times? And it didn't make any sense. And so we started to really kind of look at where the value was, and most importantly, who was willing to work with us, who was willing to be a partner. And once we got there, we were, like I said, we were pretty loyal for a long time. And then, things change, people sell companies and check out. And, once the founder at Share Sale checked out, we were like, you know what, I think we're ready to entertain offers. And so we shopped a little bit. We went to everybody's events, which I thought was super educational, to be able to go out. Cause I learned on Linkshare, but I hadn't played with their platform for years. We went to their event in Brooklyn, went to CJU, and just really kind of tried to immerse myself in whatever, all the other stuff that was out there and see, who looked like they wanted to work with us. And, in the end, I think we made the right call.
That's super awesome. It is kind of funny though. I didn't know for sure if Impact does those things because a lot of people mention them, especially with agencies. And then I asked them if they use any of those features, and none of them have used any of those features as far as I can tell. Also, because they're a little bit of add-ons, but it's cool to hear someone who's actually using it right and getting the value out of it, because they're obviously important, but it is hilarious how hard it has been to find anyone who's actually using them.
Well, and it's crazy because when you get in to start building offers, the complexity that's there and the ability to really dive in deep is insane. It's mind melting when you see all the variables that are there. And so, you were talking about, time, of transaction. I'm pretty sure you can do that. So I haven't, put that one into play. We'll have to look at it, but yeah, it's like I said, it becomes more of a challenge to edit and to be like, okay, what are the key points? What are the big things that we need to worry about? And take care of that, and then see if there's any deeper that you need to dive in from there. But if you just said, hey, I'm going to utilize this to the max right off the bat, you'd be getting yourself to the point where I think things would be a little bit paralyzed.
Yep. And I think that is one of those things too, that sometimes the complexity is just not helpful. I absolutely hate how Google Ads by default does attribution, because it gives credit to 10 different keywords and 10 different search terms. And it's this one gets 0.2 and this one gets 0.3. And it's just because someone saw it doesn't mean anything. I want to know which keyword motivated someone enough to click, go to a landing page, sign up. And if you have too much multi-touch attribution, it's really hard to figure out which one actually delivered almost all the value.
Right.
So like all of these things, like when it's probabilistic like that, and they're kind of just trying to assign credit, at some point it just becomes arbitrary. Like it's just like, well, we want to make sure that you think that you keep spending money on all these 5 different placements, and it means nothing. Like it's so much easier to be like, okay, these partners will always have like credit no matter what, like first touch, because like we know that they are top of funnel, they're adding a ton of shopper value, and that there's a lot of engagement coming from their content, and we want to just reward them regardless. And then you have like the things that are clearly at the end of funnel where like it's totally fair for like your coupon websites to be last touch attribution, because like that's what they're good at anyway, and they don't need to have the protections of the other stuff. So I do think that it's really easy to overbuild something when really you just want to be like, protect your best sources, evaluate based on like all the data you have, and make sure that you're treating your partners fairly and with respect.
Absolutely.
Cool. So like from your perspective, where do you see the affiliate market space changing in the next 2 years? Do you think it's going to change a lot? Do you think it's in a nice space right now?
I think it's going to continue growing, and I think that the coolest thing about it is I think that more and more of the traditional media is going to continue to grow. I've got a lot of great deals that are happening right now with, and we've actually been working with newspaper sites forever, but we're doing a lot more with newspapers and TV and kind of big content networks. That's really exciting. I'm super excited to do like the like TV streaming, like CTV and stuff like that. I think there's some really cool opportunities in there. And the cool thing about it is that a lot of these companies are getting plugged in with the affiliate networks and SaaS platforms. And so the ability to do, truly performance-based, things over streaming, I think is huge, especially more people are cutting the cord now and, mixing and matching with their streaming content. So I think that's going to be super exciting to watch, and it'll be really interesting to see how some of the, how TikTok continues to evolve. I was just reading the other day that I think a year ago everybody was worried that Instagram was going native with their affiliate, and now Instagram a year out said, not really, we're not going to do that anymore. And so it'll be interesting seeing how whether TikTok gets a little bit more friendly to it and starts to support it. Because I mean, there's always that challenge is that whenever you got that the old thing where if the content is, or if the product is free, you're the product. All these platforms pop up, and smart people figure out how to leverage them to drive free traffic, and then eventually that platform figures out, hey, I'm not making any money on this. What the hell? Why am I going to give you traffic? And so, one of the things that we're always telling partners that are coming up is, guys, first of all, you need to own something. And just owning your TikTok, handle isn't owning something. Just owning your Facebook group isn't owning something. Own something. Get a domain. Have a content hub there that you connect back to with all the applicable social channels. That So I mean, by all means, have TikTok, have Instagram. Stream on on Twitch, or other streaming entities like that. But connect everybody back to something that you own. Build an email list. Something that you own, because in the end, at some point, all those other free platforms have either been taken away
or changed,
or they've been changed to the point where your traffic becomes fractional. And 7 years ago, everybody was gold rushing to Facebook, and everybody was building Facebook pages and with millions of likes that were very cheaply acquired, and making printing money. And then one day, Facebook decided, hey, guess what? 1% of people get to see this. If it has an affiliate link. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, what do I do? It's like, well, what you should have done a year ago is built something else that you link those people back to and picked up those relationships and got those email addresses. Same thing with Google. I mean, there's people that work, people that work for me that wouldn't be working for me if Google hadn't changed the rules and taken away all their traffic. And I think that's a story that plays out across the industry. There's an awful lot of people that used to be great SEO, like thin content, data feed based SEO driven sites that got destroyed with Google updates. And Google warned everybody what they were going to do. They didn't do it. And so Google took their traffic away. And so you go from being a $500,000 a year affiliate to nothing. And so it's like, what do you own? And people still need to be conscious of that. Is like, you need to build something that you own, get email lists, get a site that has a following, connect with all the cool toys. Use those, leverage them, figuring out how to get the best out of them. But by all means, get something that you actually own.
Mhm. Yeah, build
And
lasting communities that go
yeah,
beyond just any single channel.
yeah, and some
Yeah.
of my best partners, are, by the way, are people that have had, content communities or, fan communities that they've been running for years, 10, 15 years, to where people can't take that away from them. They've got that engagement. They've got people that go back there every day and read up on the content. They connect with them with social, with all their social channels and all that. So it's, build that community, build something that's lasting, build something that's real.
That is definitely the way to to build anything, including your own company. One thing I was just going to mention is a self-serving thing. It's just like with TikTok in particular, like at least for TikTok ads. I mean, the reason that we track it is because we work like Google Analytics, so there's no redirects. They're literally linking directly to it, and you start the tracking process on your side, and then we have an integration for passing that conversion and event data back into TikTok for optimization. So that's why, like, given that, I mean, you can receive traffic pretty well from TikTok ads, and it actually is doing pretty good performance stuff. So
Nice.
it's something to keep an eye on. Cool. And is there anything that you're looking for on your side or open to on your side where watchers should reach out to you if it's relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for, content partners. If you've got a sports fan audience, and our world is exploding right now. Fanatics is growing at like unfathomable rates right now, to where we've been dominating licensed sports merch for a couple of years, but now we're really getting into collectibles and cards, where we acquired Tops. We're hiring people like crazy on that side of things, getting into NFTs with Candy. Candy Digital is our NFT company. Also getting ready to launch sports betting. So yeah, if you've
Whoa.
got sports fans, people that like to bet, people that like to collect around either sports or entertainment, definitely get in touch. We'd love to get you plugged in and find ways we can make you money.
And how can people get in touch with you, and who should they contact on your team? Because I mean, I know that we have lots of partners and stuff that are really good at specifically the sports betting niche. So how should people reach out to your team?
Yeah, they can hit us up, partners@fanatics.com. It's probably the best way.
Awesome. And any parting thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, thanks. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun. And, just what I would encourage everybody to do is definitely, don't be afraid, to go out there, challenge yourself by learning new things, play with all those new platforms that come out, see if you can figure out how to leverage those for you. But in the end, like I said, always, tie it back to something that you're going to own long-term, because there's nothing that sucks more than building, a really good business and a really good income and having that taken away. But if you do things right, you can still leverage all, those cool, bells and whistles of all the channels that are out there, and build something that has lasting value that you own and that has value, and that, maybe down the road, when you're done working at, you can sell off and make some good money from somebody else. It's one of the things that's blown me away in the industry, is watching some really good friends, exit their companies and be able to do some really cool stuff. So, build things that have lasting value, and don't just chase easy money.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Wade. I was just thinking that, like, normally I ask a lot more questions on these, and especially as people say stuff, and like, you have such a concrete way of explaining stuff where it's like I can almost see like the bullets of your thought of like key points and the support. So few people are as good at being an absolutely clear expert as you. So I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and sharing your expertise.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Have a wonderful day, and thanks everyone for tuning in.